And hello and good evening. It is Monday, September 13th, 2021. And Star Trek, the original series, season 3, episode 24, or episode 24, depending on what order you go in, is over and has been since 1969. But I'm just getting started here on Live Long and Podcast, along with this great panel tonight. We got my dad, Ted. How are you doing tonight, Dad?
Doing good, thanks.
As we've been here for all 73 podcasts in a row. This will be number 73. Also joining us, we got Ashley Millard. How are you doing tonight, Ashley?
I'm good.
And we got Jody Simpson.
Hello.
And we expect Adam Woodward will pop in as well. I believe he'll be with us as well to talk about this episode, Turnabout Intruder, which is the last episode of Star Trek, the original series that ever aired. It was the end of season 3, and I think they had hoped maybe for another season, but it wasn't to be. And so this ends up being the final chapter. This episode is an episode I had never actually watched. I have avoided this episode actually because it has this, I guess, stigma in the Star Trek community because it has this plot line around Dr. Janice Lester, and that they talk about that women aren't allowed to be Starfleet captains, which always felt like not consistent with everything else that the show had done around there sort of being equality in the 23rd century, that everyone can rise to different levels and things, but they threw this into this story and it's considered to be a bit of a blemish. However, with that being said, I really did like this story and I did like this episode quite a bit. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought Shatner in particular was really strong in it. Also the guest star who was playing Lester, and I guess also Kirk as well, in Barbara Baldwin. So let's maybe go around the room and talk about it. Dad, for you first, Turnabout Intruder, where do you stand?
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, kept my interest. Yeah. Good
Kept
episode.
your interest? Is this one you know?
Yeah, I've seen it before. Yeah.
You've seen it before. Okay. Oh, we got Adam now joining us. Oh, now look at that. Check out the 5 people on screen. Oh, man. Let's get that going. All right. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well?
Good.
Good. Welcome. Is this the best layout? Or we might do this layout, or we can do this layout. I don't know. This is good. Okay, so we're talking about Turnabout Intruder, as we've mentioned a couple times, is the final episode. So we talked to Dad so far. He's like, it was good. It was his, all right. Let's go to Ashley next. Ashley, where does this episode sort of rate for you? And maybe after that, this whole thing about the women's captains or the banning of women captains as a woman, do you have an opinion?
I like the episode. It's a classic sci-fi story. You see the body swapping thing in sci-fi quite a bit.
Freaky Friday.
It does feel pretty consistent for me with the women's storyline through original series, because you don't ever see a woman captain in the original series. They never talk about a woman captain in any of the previous episodes. And it goes on and on about how weak women are and how our minds are mentally unstable. I mean, that's pretty consistent through the entire of the original series. So it felt spot on for me.
All right. All right. Yeah, just pretty consistent with it also being a Gene Roddenberry written episode.
That's right.
Yeah,
Shocker.
Shocker. Jody, segue over to you. This story, and like, did you like this performance, or was this sort of a yawn for you?
I'm kind of with Ted on this one. I think it was a pretty good episode for the most part. Certainly not an episode that's great to end a series on, but I don't necessarily know if they knew that at that point. But the overacting by Shatner, this is the prime example of it. This is fantastic. I just think it's fun. It's a fun episode, even though I think the whole, women can't be captains thing is just ridiculous. But, if you never told me that Roddenberry wrote this episode, I would still know that Roddenberry wrote this episode. It's so everything Roddenberry stood for in this episode.
Yeah, and to be clear, he wrote the story, not the teleplay. In this
Of course,
case.
yeah,
So,
yeah. But still, it's making women look as the worst. Is
women are
something-
emotional. That's
they're emotional
regulations,
wrecks
Jody.
they're emotional wrecks that cannot be controlled except for by William Shatner.
maybe this particular woman is, but not all women.
Yeah, the only real thing I don't like about this episode is probably the first 10 minutes. First 10 minutes of this episode is just
Is it is it that he's going to kill himself or she's going to kill herself with a scarf like you're showing now?
Yeah, it's kind of actually. Yeah, come to think of it, there it is. There's Mr. Red Kirk
Right in the face.
there. But that overacting just projects into not needing makeup. I guess is the best way. But
I think he was channeling his ex-wife in this scene. Maybe.
Maybe at this point, yeah. But it was a fun episode. Like there's way worse episodes of the original series than this for sure.
Yeah. Adam, let's hear from you. Turnabout Intruder. What do you think of this one? Did you know this one coming in?
No, I like this episode. I honestly, I just came down from upstairs finishing it, and I'm sorry I'm a little late, but that was really entertaining. It was. I gotta say, I knew the women thing in the background, but it didn't need to be that. They could have just done an unstable person.
Yeah, she couldn't be a captain because she failed the psych exam or something.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I really do wish that hadn't been the case. But and if any dark mark on this episode, it probably is that. But other than that, it was great. It was Freaky Friday. I said that in the first minute too. And did you notice? I don't know if you guys noticed, but that Mike Myers mask that
I do.
Yeah.
Totally. I for the first time saw it.
Like
Yeah,
that's,
me too.
that's the inspiration right there. Yeah.
This was Mike Myers Shatner. This is Dad. If you don't know what we mean, here, let's bring it up. You can see Shatner on the left, the Mike Myers mask on the right, and sort of the in between, and how the Shatner mask came to be the Mike Myers the serial killer's mask. Yeah, and he's a little bit puffier, and then I think that mask is like also even more puffier because it's like based on a mold they made of his head. And so, yeah, it's looking like sort of like the William Shatner maybe we know now a little bit closer than season one. Yes, but Adam, I agree that I was seeing that as well. And Jody, just to your earlier point, the overacting, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the meme or the famous thing that comes up near the end of the episode where there's Janice Lester in the body of Kirk is sort of being weakened, and like they're sort of reverting back to their original minds before they will be sort of undone. And so there's like this shot here where Shatner is playing it as Janice Lester going, ah. There's been many versions of this meme that have emerged, including Jazz Hands, of course. It's for you, Captain, Federation Department of Child Support. We got, oh no, it's a meme. Okay, I'm the Priceline negotiator. Things like that. So we got all kinds of different stuff going on here. But yeah, like Shatner, I don't know, he was about to be out of a job. He was like, I am going to knock this out to the park. You are going to see me be Janice Lester inside of this body, like you have never seen. And it really made me think like William Shatner should have played the villain more often, because he does it so well in this episode. He didn't play it very often. He was always the hero, like
it depends on how you look at it. A lot of the episodes he really was the villain. I guess so, but like not overtly, or at least it wasn't that as intended here. Whereas Janice Lester is a pretty like straight up villain, while you sort of understand her motivations. I think that that does play into it, but and also her performance as Kirk, like being, I think is also really good. I think both of these actors have to do quite a bit to make you believe they're each version here, because this switch happens very early in the episode. Like in the first couple minutes, they beam down, they establish that this planet Camus 2
is been on some kind of archaeological expedition, but everyone's gotten sick. A lot of people have died, including Janice Lester, and there's this other guy, Dr. Coleman. And so the rest of the crew kind of goes off, and Kirk's left with Janice Lester, and that's when, like, you know, she kind of like does this whole thing where she gets him into the machine, and then she switches the minds, and then she like is about to kill her own body with his consciousness inside, but that's cut short because she's doing a lot of mustache twirling. And as Coleman will say, you couldn't do it because you loved him, right?
This is the acting that we didn't deserve. That's what this is. We got it though, and it was great.
Yeah, and this is and so the whole switch happens here. We kind of figure out pretty early that this Dr. Coleman is in on this because he kind of is saying things to Shatner as Lester Kirk.
Well, he's in coveralls too. That's usually a good indication.
Anybody in those good point. Anybody in these coveralls, they're usually trouble. You know?
Yeah. It's there was something. I guess Gene Roddenberry didn't like mechanics either.
Yeah,
I think that was the other thing. Mechanics
very
and women.
Bond villain.
Yeah.
Almost kind of had the same overalls as Daystrom.
Yes.
Daystrom.
Good point. Yeah, Daystrom.
And other erratic people they've had come through. What am I doing? So then it becomes like, sort of like, how will they figure this out? Because he's trying, like, you know, I keep saying Shatner, but it's Dr. Lester in the body of Kirk. And, you know, through a series of circumstances, they have to beam the whole crew up. And we see, you know, Lester as Kirk trying to like do a few things, settle into the role of captain, which is what she's always wanted, but also have to like tie up these loose ends, I guess, with the fact that Lester, or Kirk as Lester, can expose this whole thing, right, and ruin her perfect plan to take over the Enterprise as the captain. And pretty early on, like everyone's starting to kind of figure out that Kirk is a little bit off. You know, I think in particular because they are shutting out McCoy from like the treatment of Dr. Lester. They're saying, no, it should all be Dr. Coleman.
So I don't know about any of you guys, but as I'm watching this episode, I'm like, why don't they just ask a goddamn question that only he could answer? Because she's a representation of him, but she doesn't know everything. All they have to do is say, you know, what did we have for dinner last Tuesday? Like, that's literally it. Because okay, all right. So Ashley was.
But when he phoned up the Enterprise, you notice he said Captain Kirk to Enterprise. He never says that.
Yes,
yeah,
I noticed that as well. Yeah.
This is Captain Kirk. You know?
Yeah.
As
Right?
opposed to the other
would just
captain
say
that would be
Kirk
calling
Enterprise.
you.
Right. Kirk Enterprise.
Ashley?
Bones should have realized much earlier on what was going on because Lester as Kirk kept calling him Dr. McCoy. And
That's
when
right.
Kirk as Lester rushed in, when she escaped and rushed into sickbay, she called him Bones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Bones
He
and
should have
Spock.
known immediately.
That's
Yeah.
not scientific, though.
No one
That's
else-
not evidence. Headquarters won't accept that.
Bones.
You know what? Though on that note, like it was odd to see Bones in that role because he's usually the one, like, you know, damn the torpedoes and full steam ahead. He, you know, Spock, get on the program here. Now Spock's trying to convince him. What the
Yeah.
heck?
Yeah, it's
Usually
like a
at their-
role reversal for those two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spock was making the leap of faith way sooner, willing to sort of, you know, based on his mind meld more than anything, and but makes sense. He's the only one with that, I guess, ability.
Like even that scene that we just saw back behind me here, where she's sitting in the chair and she's like, and there's this narration of her as obviously as Kirk, but not Kirk. And she's like, you know, I could take over. And she's like sitting in the chair. It's like, and nobody on the thing is like, why is he so excited about sitting in this damn chair? Like, it's like-
Right. Like this is a crew that has dealt with a mirror universe version of Kirk coming to
Yes.
the ship. A
Yes.
version where he was split into a good and evil version of
that's
himself.
right. Yeah.
Right? Like so they've been through some drills here to know that the captain
They-
might not be the captain.
That's right. They also even said that in the episode. They're like, we've been through so many things that we have experienced weird stuff, and we can accept that. It's
I got the clip right here. Let's hear it.
Oh, do you have it?
This crew has been to many places in the galaxy and witnessed to many strange events. They are trained to know that what seems to be impossible often is possible, given the scientific analysis of the phenomenon.
They're
Right.
apparently not that well fucking trained, are they? Because
Yeah,
they're not
When
paying
He's
attention.
giving you those eyes. You do not mess with him, apparently.
Exactly.
Because like security completely folds in this episode. They become almost
Completely.
his Gestapo or
They
her
did.
Gestapo.
They did.
They were, yeah.
The SS.
Yeah, because they are they not trained to question orders? Apparently not. Like only the blue and yellow shirts are.
No red shirts got killed.
Well,
in
and
this
Scotty was with the program, but like
And this chick, that's one of the worst things about this episode too, is White Uhura.
the lieutenant there. Yeah,
I don't know how many times they had to show her, but her not do anything. Like, have you noticed? Did you notice that through the episode? They kept showing like little clips of her reacting, and all of her reactions were like,
No. When Lester Kirk was up on, giving his own testimony and making it a joke, they all laughed. They were completely on side. Chekhov and Sulu and her were like, ha ha. Why would we ever think that? Or why, Spock, you're silly.
yeah. But the one thing I will say is this episode was entertaining. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm with Ted on that one for sure.
We're voting. I was on
good
the edge
show.
of my seat. We're going to the vote.
We're going to the vote.
We're
and
gonna
then
have,
we're
we're gonna
executing
go to the vote,
people.
and then we're gonna execute. What is it? Order. What is it?
Order
Directive
4.
5 or something?
Or 4, which is Talos 4.
that's
All
right.
That. But yeah, let's just bring it up. This communications officer that's Barbara Baladovan. That's not who played Janice Lester. Janice Lester was played by somebody else. Janice Lester, of course I don't have her here. Janice Lester was played by Sandra Smith. Don't we know a Sandra Smith?
I don't know.
Anyway. We used to, right, Dad?
Yeah. I still
All
do.
right. Still do?
Yeah, still.
Okay, so Barbara Baladovan, who is what I was getting to, this is the character here, Lieutenant Lisa, who
Yes.
also, she was in the episode, this actor was also in the episode Shore Leave, playing the bride,
Oh
if you
yeah.
recall.
I didn't know that. That was her.
Played this other character as well. I guess played,
She had different hair.
she had
So
different
she's in
hair.
Balance of Terror too.
She's also in Balance of Terror as Angeline Martine, which is the bride. Okay, so she's the bride in the Balance of
That's the
Terror,
bride. Yeah.
and then she's in Shore Leave called Mary Teller in the script, which I guess is the same character. So it's kind of like, yeah. Anyway, but Uhura was not in this episode.
No.
So
No.
unfortunately,
but everybody else was, which was
everyone else,
interesting.
the other crew there, even Chapel with a new hairdo.
Yes.
Yeah, Chapel. She usually had blonde hair, didn't she?
Yes.
Mhm.
Every time I can remember her ever, but in this she had gone brown hair.
This would have been around the time when she was getting ready to hang out with Roddenberry, though.
I think she would have maybe been transitioning from mistress to wife at this point.
Yes,
I
yes,
think
I believe
yes,
so,
that would be
yes.
accurate.
Sometimes you got to fancy up the hair there, Dave.
right.
Is that her in this picture behind me, right up here?
Yes.
Is that her
That-
next to Kirk?
That's blonde version. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
blonde version.
That's
yeah.
or as Dave just mentioned, Mistress Michelle Barrett.
Right. And so Nurse Chapel she's the first one that Kirk as Lester says, like, help me, Nurse Chapel, get me away from Dr. Coleman, get Spock and McCoy. And Dr. Coleman's like, she's so delirious from this radiation. Why don't you go get a sedative for me, Chapel? And they just kind of go along with it.
Yeah.
Were you disappointed in Chapel? Anybody? Ashley?
Yeah, like I feel like she should have been more on McCoy's side and more like questioning, why is this happening? Why are they giving him the responsibility for this? Why are they shutting I feel like she should have had some some like she should have been with McCoy.
Or at
Well-
least reporting that.
Well, at least in all the other episodes, for the most part, she was always kind of like always on his side, always running the same stuff that he's running. Like she's always there. But in this episode, she's like kind of not with him. It's
Yeah.
like it's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah, she's usually not such a rule follower either. She's more likely to sort of do something.
Well, she's Bones basically.
But
She's
she's
female Bones.
she's also Spock. Like she loves Spock. So I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah.
if Spock says it, she's gonna follow it.
Right, and that was with the orders and everything else. What about Dr. Coleman too? Because he's an interesting accomplice in this whole story for me. Because he has this devotion to Lester, Janice Lester, and he's helping. Like he was in on this conspiracy to switch their minds and bodies, and a few times Janice kind of, as Kirk says, "Will you help me kill?" Not just the body of Lester, but also, I guess, help kill other people who know about this later on when the conspiracy is starting to become more prevalent. He always says no. He's like, I won't kill people, but I will be an accomplice to murder. That's where I'm willing to go that far. It was kind of a weird line to draw for me for this guy who's also a doctor.
Yeah, I wanted more of him.
He was a bad doctor.
He was a bad doctor, which
But at the end, didn't we find out they were lovers and or at least
yes, we found out that he loved her and she loved him, and we also found out that they kind of intentionally killed those people on the planet, or they were both complicit in the deaths of the other archaeology survey. So that kind of all happened very quickly, but my impression of it was that they did this to kind of figure out the ancient technology of mind transference. That's sort of how they got in this position, and along the way they cooked up this plan that they're going to send the Enterprise, and my old boyfriend Jimmy Kirk's coming, and I'm going to steal everything from him because he's a jerk. And I'm going to.
Because a while ago we had a falling out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like their whole backstory was that they were a thing, and then we hear it from Janice through the body of Kirk. He tells McCoy, he's like, "Yeah, we were into it, but then when it got serious, I walked out on her." But that's really her account of it, right?
Yeah.
Kirk's account of it is that he couldn't be with a woman who hated being stuck in a woman's body.
hated her womanhood.
Yes. So he couldn't be with her anymore because she hated her womanhood. She was alone and stuck in a female's body.
I am so glad you said that.
Too, Ashley, and this is what sucks about this episode. They didn't need that. Like, honest to God, they could have gone into she was jilted by him. She was unhappy with him. She didn't like how he left her. But those comments was very, I guess, to the time. And
the thing for me with the original series, those comments make me laugh in this series. Like, I think it's absolutely hilarious that this stuff was aired on TV in the 60s. I think it's really funny. If it were to be in a Star Trek episode now, no way.
If they did it now, it would be death to them.
But watching it back on these, like, it's absolutely hilarious to watch.
Well, it's a snapshot of the stupidity, I guess.
Yeah,
a good way to look at it.
Like when a machine tries to scan Uhura and is like, "What the hell?" and Spock's like, "Yeah, women. Am I right?" Like, that's hilarious.
Right.
Well,
and I felt like the writers of this episode, which is Gene Roddenberry from the story and Arthur Singer from the teleplay, the way that some of the dialogue is written is like that women are just jealous of men's, not just like the privilege given, but also, as soon as now the Lester character is inhabiting the Kirk body, it's like, I'm strong and powerful and I can wring your neck and what you men must want to do with this power, but you're too afraid to use it or whatever. I don't think, is that what women think about us? Like, it's like, I
don't think that was ever how they felt, but I'm not a woman, so I can't judge that.
This is written by two men, so I think it's,
maybe a crazy psychopath like Lester thinks that way.
Exactly.
Maybe. Yeah. And she's clearly deranged in this episode. Yeah. Who she was previously is kind of like who he was to her in the old days. And I was curious because we didn't get a ton of that kind of established before she ha ha ha, I got you, and I'm switching the bodies and everything else. So she's an adversary throughout the entire story, right? So like their closeness and is sort of beside the point, I guess. It's like I guess makes it a little more tragic, but yeah, it was oh the whole,
It was.
well, just the whole like I guess men get everything and women get nothing. But of course, this is 1969, where that is also kind of the case, in some ways, at least. And so I don't know.
This scene here where he's doing all the tests on Kirk, and he's like, "Yeah, you're at like you're a peak efficiency or whatever." He says, "It's like, do you think do you think Shatner actually made them put that in there?
Maybe.
Like, do you think that was even part of the script, or was that just like
Take off your.
He had to take off his shirt here.
Shatner's
and-
like, I need another gig. Make sure I look good."
well, even like they were like, yeah, the test. Like he's like, I have to give you a test, and even Spock before in the scene before, he's like, give him the test. But clearly, this is like mental. If anything, like it's not like this is not probably a physical condition. But as soon as we come back, he's like got him doing the stairmaster on the wall in the sick bay, like they do, and then they then they start giving him like the emotional psychographic test. He's like, we're able to look at all these things, and you think that this is the test that's going to reveal like the truth, but it doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
What about brainwaves? Wouldn't the brainwaves be different?
I would assume.
Yeah,
Brainwaves are formed by early childhood. We learned that with Thomas Riker and Will Riker.
That's true.
Yeah.
Dad, no, you don't. You think the
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Well,
that
look at the
episode was
science.
also about 25 years difference, but
I never watched that episode.
Yeah, well, don't worry. There's still time. So, it's not over.
A simple memory test would have revealed the truth.
A memory
Maybe
test.
last Thursday, right, Jody?
yeah. What did you eat last week? That would have solved the whole thing right there.
What was our last mission? What were the specifics of our last mission that was
exactly
wouldn't be
something like that? Something that you wouldn't know.
something that wouldn't be in the official reports?
But yet they did that in other episodes. They kind of did stuff like that to figure out which one was the real Kirk. Like, but yet not in this case, I guess. But it is what it is.
So I have a question that I've never asked before, but who's in charge of security? Like, who's the security chief? Do we have one?
So realistically, I remember reading somewhere it actually falls under engineering, but I don't know why.
In the mirror
So
universe,
it'd be actually Scotty, technically.
in the mirror universe, it fell under Sulu, but that was
Yes.
the mirror universe.
Exactly.
Because that's why he wears the red shirt there. In the mirror universe, he was the security chief. Can you
Plus,
hear me?
he can fence with no shirt on, so that's good too.
Yeah. So, and then, but on the actual Enterprise, like I don't think they ever established a specific security chief.
Yeah, I don't think they ended up doing that.
There was
but
that
I do
commander
remember reading somewhere
guy,
about it.
like that Italian guy that was like with the rock
Oh,
monsters.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he wasn't around
the-
for this one.
The rock monster that pees out messages.
Yes.
Yes.
No more hurt me or whatever it says.
No hurt
the
me.
Horta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like, so what happens in this episode is like like Kirk through Lester through Kirk is able to like enact a lot of power here. Seal her off, put security guards, right? Don't let anyone near her, except when Chapel gets to go in, right? And so Lester goes in and tries to convince Chapel. And this is sort of after I'm sort of going, but when she comes back to her, she goes, I'm not, it's Kirk as Lester. I'm so delirious on that radiation earlier. I'm feeling so much better now. And Chapel has brought Lester this like glass of this drink, some kind of medication, I would assume, for the radiation poisoning
To
or
put her
something.
out, yeah, it's a sedative.
It's a sedative, right? But not
Yeah.
a hypospray. And she's like, well, can't I just drink it slowly or whatever? Okay. And then as soon as
Okay,
Chapel
I'll be in the other
leaves-
room.
As soon as Chapel leaves, throws it down or pours it on the ground,
Breaks
throws it
that
down,
shit.
turns it into a glass knife, and then cuts through like the restraints, right? But then even better, starts running through the ship with the glass, like the broken bottle effect or glass. So, which is when they run into Kirk as well, Lester, Kirk, and McCoy and Spock, and before she can really say much other than bones and Spock, judo chop comes from this.
Wow. And then everybody's looking. What did
What
you?
the hell did you just do?
Why did you do
He's
that?
Well, like she could have killed somebody with that, and I had
Like right there, that should have been the indication. Like even the security guards had this kind of like weird look on their face, right? It's like, actually, I think it's coming up.
I think it was before actually, but
Was it before this? It
Yeah.
might have been before this.
yeah, just like it was like, oh man, and like Kirk and Spock or sorry, Spock and McCoy at this point are like, oh, this seems a little worse than
He's
like him not
"Oh, shit,
wanting
now
to,
we got to fill out that thing with HR, you know.
right, and then the security guards show up, and he's like, get her out of here, and don't let anyone talk to her, right? So anyway, so McCoy's like, okay, we're doing our tests, and then Spock goes to talk to Lester. Remember, like that's the security guard who won't let him by, Lieutenant
Yeah.
Galloway, who I think we've seen before. Let's just bring him up here quickly.
Oh, that was one of the two, right?
Yes, he was like the one who actually spoke more. This guy, he was like, I follow orders, and
Yeah.
and
I
he doesn't
can't let
go-
you in, sir.
I can't let you in, sir. And he was like, well, does that include the senior officers? Spock says to him, he goes, well, I guess not, but I have to come in with you, and I have to make sure nothing's going on here. And this is a crazy idea. I feel like this guy deserves like a reprimand on his official record. Is anyone with me?
Sure, Dave. I'll go with you on that
Just
one.
send him to a planet of the next mission. He'll be taken care of.
Right, because Spock takes some convincing right before he really believes in it. You know, Kirk Lester is saying like, remember when we saw the Vians? Remember when we did the Tholian web? When all these other things happened? And he's like, well, those were all official reports. But he's like, use your telepathic ability. Lester says, Kirk Lester, and that's what seals the deal. But not for Lieutenant Galloway. He doesn't believe it. So then Spock has to start like neck pinching everybody, like every security guard he comes across. I think he takes out 3 of them before he's finally stopped.
There was more neck pinches in this episode than in any other episode.
Yeah, he was dropping
For
them. He's like, "Hey, ensign, boom." You know, don't worry. And then until
Did you just look at me funny? Boom. You know?
but then Kirk Lester shows up. I keep mixing these terms up. I don't know how to describe them. So it's like who was who at what point. But Lester, in the form of Kirk, says Spock just tried to take over the ship with this criminal. He's under arrest. We're having an immediate court-martial, and we go right to court-martial, which becomes this whole this thing. Spock is like explaining his point of view. He's like, listen, like this is what I think. I think that you're that there's things I don't have any evidence yet, which I get is a problem. Even Scotty is saying to him during this court martial, like, "What do you want us to do, Spock? We have nothing to go off of here. There's nothing." He's like, "I know it's a concern, but I know," and it's so
But keep in mind,
Spock.
this crew is entirely trained to understand these type of things happening.
right, and Spock's usually right.
But yet
too.
goes along with this too.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of issue there.
I think
And now-
Sulu and what's his name? need
Chekhov?
Sulu and Chekhov need to be reprimanded too. They went along
Well,
with his
they
bullshit.
are not very present in this discussion. Like they seem to be afraid to kind of speak up.
Yeah.
Compared to like even Scotty and McCoy here.
The only when they refused to follow his orders.
Only when they stopped short at executions, but everything else they were
Yeah, they're okay with the mutiny. They're okay with all that shit. But
Yeah.
oh, wait a second, we're gonna hang people. Oh, okay, never mind.
yeah.
I
They
like
were
what he said. Internment will be at whatever the planet they're going to.
yeah, we're gonna
Internment.
drop you off at some planet or whatever.
Bury
Um,
them there.
Yeah, and so but Spock's like, you got to bring in Lester because that testimony matters, and Kirk's just like, oh, she's deranged.
Huffy face.
She we can't, dangerous. But eventually
Like
concedes.
even as he's talking during this whole mutiny thing, like even as he's talking, at this point they should have already been like, wait a second,
You
this
are
might not
relieved
be
of command.
Kirk.
Like he's clearly, you can make a case, even if you can't prove it's not Kirk, you can make that if this is Kirk, that there's
He's
extreme
batshit
emotional,
crazy. Yeah.
extreme emotional duress. They are not. Kirk would not be fit. They would have sufficient grounds to relieve him, but
Exactly.
for some reason, the red shirts are backing him up.
Well, that's
So-
his Gestapo.
Yeah.
So my biggest problem with the court-martial scene is Bones saying that there's no scientific evidence for what Spock is saying. Spock says, I mind melded with him, and McCoy's like, that's not evidence, that's what you say. But
Yeah, exactly.
last week when we watched the Paradise Syndrome, McCoy was right there when Spock gave Kirk a mind meld and brought him back to himself.
That's a good point.
Right.
Being
Yeah.
like McCoy knows that this is something that Vulcan
They do.
can do.
And on Vulcan, it would be totally legitimate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Some holes in this, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of holes in this episode, but it's
And
still
speaking of which, I need just a little bit of that mind meld with Kirok.
I am Kirok. I am Kirok. I am
Kirok!
I'm telling you right now, Dave, I am so recording that from the podcast. That's gonna be on TikTok. I'm telling you right now.
I am Kirok. Yeah. So yes, you're right. Great point, Ashley. They like Spock even brings it up. We've seen some weird shit. We've done some things. We've been around, and
We've also seen a whole bunch of different versions of either Kirk being possessed or taken over or represented in some way.
but no, they can't accept it.
No.
He's acting. He's
fine. He's just
fine.
He's just angry.
Everyone has a bad day. Come
Kirk
on.
don't like no mutiny.
Who had, if your ex-girlfriend was visiting, would you be happy?
You'd be pissed off about it too.
Right. I especially like in the court-martial scene where, Kirk, it's not Kirk, but it's Lester, Kirk says, you know what, Spock, why don't you come back to the Enterprise family? We'll forgive everything. We'll forget this ever happened, And there was this whole thing where, like, Spock was like, I am in defiance.
No, sir. I shall not withdraw a single charge that I have made, and I shall do everything in my power against you.
Yeah, I was like, go Spock, right? And later on, when Scotty confronts McCoy outside of the corridor, because Shatner's like, or Kirk's going, we are having a vote. We're having the vote now, And McCoy's really struggling with how he's going to vote. But Scotty's like, I've seen the captain all kinds of ways. Never like that. That's not the captain. I'm gonna take over this ship. Are you with me or not? And I think McCoy was with him, but they never really got the they'd been bugged, and the whole conversation was recorded. So then they're all going to be not just arrested but executed. And the security guards are willing to go along with these illegal orders.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Captain says you got to do it. So I think, didn't Spock say, to mirror Kirk, your authority on the ship is severely limited?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So
I love this. I love this where he's like bending over while he's talking. That was amazing. He looks like a pit bull. It's amazing.
Pounding the table.
Look at him. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
eyes.
Just love it.
The
He's
facial
great.
expressions.
And Scotty's just like he's just like, this is so horse shit, right? But he's not saying anything. It's like,
They must have loved this episode. I mean, watching Kirk go or watching Shatner go in this episode.
to be a fly in the room, like that would have been amazing.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
just I just think like
Oh yeah, wait. Go back to those guys sitting there. They look like Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
yeah. All right, Sulu and Chekhov.
Yeah.
The matching hairstyles this episode was just on point for them. Like the
For
just
sure.
ridiculous same haircut was awesome.
Oh yeah. And so they go back to the bridge, and after this, they're like, "Oh, that was." Or they protest once everyone's arrested and going to be executed. They're like, "You can't do that. That's against the regulations." He's like, "I am the regulations. I am the law. I am the Judge Dredd." You know, Sulu and Chekhov on the bridge, along with Lieutenant Lisa, are like, maybe we made the wrong call there in the court-martial scene. You know,
Whoa! Maybe he is batshit crazy.
but we're only lieutenants and ensigns, so we got to think about this for an extra couple minutes. That's what happens when you get promoted. I guess you're a little bit more decisive about when you're going to stand up against things, right? I was loving this. I was loving like the defiance of Spock. I was loving the defiance of Scotty here. I was like, you know, McCoy.
Even when Sulu and Chekhov finally came around, you know, it was good. You know, the silent, put my hands down. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. I'm not. You can't make me unless you put a phaser to my head, I guess. Yeah. So and you know, then they start going back and like there's that whole thing where their minds.
He looks so bored.
Who, Scotty?
Yeah. Did you ever notice that in that scene? Look at him. He's just like.
He seems determined.
Anyway, sorry.
No worries. Yeah. So, and then like the whole like mental thing is being broken between them. There's like that whole moment where, well, with the jazz hands, and whatever, and you know, Scotty, Spock, McCoy, they're all in the holding cell with Lester's body with Kirk inside, and they're kind of like, whoa, okay, well, if we get a chance to get out of here, we have to do everything we can to escape because they are going to kill us if we don't. They being Kirk and whoever is willing to do what he says. So, you know, but luckily this is this whole incident makes Kirk Lester go to see Dr. Coleman again, asking, will you murder people for me? Because the crew won't like it. The crew is definitely anti-murder. I'm getting that definite vibe from my helmsman.
They were okay with the whole, like, you know, let's have a trial for mutiny thing. Most of them, anyway.
Yeah, they were fine with that. And they accepted that there was lack of evidence and everything else. But they're like, okay, we have to.
This part bothered me, which is something that you were just talking about, where they eventually get defiant, right? But they're sitting there having a free chat about this. But yet, the two guys that were in the corridor just a couple minutes ago were having the same type of discussion, and it was used against them.
Right.
And it was played back because apparently they record everything. Like, it doesn't matter where it is, you're getting recorded. So I would imagine on the bridge, they definitely
if you turn them on, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Lester kind of had a feeling this was coming, I guess, and so kind of set McCoy and Scotty up.
Look at this. I love this. Oh!
You will follow my orders.
And this effect that they did, where they put like the little shadow person, and it was kind of.
Well, that's where you saw the Mike Myers mask.
Yeah. Here it comes. Oh! I love this episode.
There it is.
This is amazing.
Right there.
Yeah, because it's kind of like an overlay of Lester's face onto his, and then
yeah, it's amazing.
Is it this predates Freaky?
This
Friday,
might be a
right?
10 out of 10, Dave. I'm not gonna lie.
What, Freaky Friday,
great
episode, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
the original Freaky Friday. What year's that?
I'll check it out here.
That's 70s, I think.
Yeah,
so that was 70s.
So they did it first.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm sure they weren't the first people to do it.
1976, Dave.
Okay,
76,
so well, not quite 10 years, but
I was almost born.
But that's the more, or there's also was Shaggy Dog, where the guy got put in the Shaggy Dog. Remember that one? No.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a Disney movie. Anyway,
Yeah,
so but the final act is pretty simple. They, you know, once they're you know, they're on their way to murder them, Kirk and Coleman. But you know, when they open up the door to take out Lester, they kind of get a whole thing here. There's a whole fight, and during that, they're able to like basically wear off the transference, but over like their minds, and their true bodies take over. And then she basically just collapses in tears, you know. And Coleman's like, "Can I just take care of her?" And McCoy's like, "Yeah, of course." I was like, "No, arrest that Coleman."
Yeah.
You know, like maybe she needs to help, but he's definitely criminal. He knows what he's doing is wrong. He's not like, I would go that as far as to say, like, Lester seems like she's maybe got some serious issues, like that, you know, maybe she deserves to be in a hospital.
You think?
But Coleman, you know, they're like, he was thrown out of, like, he was almost thrown out of like the medicine for being grossly incompetent.
Yeah, because I
You
mentioned that earlier when he said he was looking through his
Yeah,
through
that,
his
like
records.
like McCoy's like, why did you assign this guy as like the sole caregiver on the case? Because he's not even really qualified for this, and you know I'm a better doctor, and my authorities on the ship is supposed to be absolute. So anyway, but that's the last we see of Dr. Lester. She's courted off, and that's and then the Enterprise flies off into the sunset.
And no jokes, nothing. It just ended.
Just ended.
Yeah.
Not yeah, like so many original series episodes end with like a joke, a quip, even some kind of it's not so much a down moment, but it's not really a because like I guess they defeat the villain of the story, Janice, but like it's kind of just a kind of somber, kind of sobering finale.
And in true
And-
Trek fashion, nobody actually gets their comeuppings at the end.
Well, I guess she was just defeated. Yeah, like that was her.
She was defeated. Like she took over a starship. Essentially, she posed as a captain. She killed a whole bunch of people prior to that. But yeah, you know what? She's crazy. We're gonna put her in a loony ward. And the other guy that helped her, oh yeah, he's gonna take care of her.
He should be confined to quarters. I think.
Well, you
I-
know where they went. I mean,
They
let's
should both be in the brig.
Yeah.
They were at
They
Right.
were
There's-
literally
that's the
right
final.
there. And
What was it?
McCoy just walked them away from it in the opposite direction.
And Kirk's like, whatever, I win.
Yeah, he's like, haha, I win, got my ship back. We're good.
And that's all she wrote. But maybe
And that is all she
I'm
wrote.
curious. Do we have any trivia about this episode, Joey?
Oh, I brought some up, yes. And again, I do apologize. My camera monitor is not working still, and apparently somebody's getting yelled at upstairs. Anyway, William Shatner had a severe case of the flu during filming of this episode. At one point, he had to lift Sandra Smith in his arms, carry her to the couch, and put her on it. During the first take, he got so far as to the couch and dropped her. Fortunately, it was well padded, and Smith bounced several times, according to Joni Winston, who was visiting the set. Shatner looked down at Smith and said, quote, "I know I love you, baby, but you got to lose about 6 inches of that ass."
What?
Hey, I didn't make that up, man. That's what it came from. That's a direct quote. All right. Well, I don't even know if I could top that. We should
I don't
just
even know what
stop now.
what he was trying to get at. Like,
Well, I think he's trying to say she was too heavy for him to
looked
move
pretty
around.
small
right?
to me.
But anyway, whatever. Yeah. Well, everybody's a beanpole in that show anyway. The transposition sequence was the last footage shot for the original series. So there you go.
So, like when the first scene in the episode was sort of the last scene that they ever did.
Well, I think what they actually mean is the face on the face thing. That would be
Oh,
my-
like on the one on the bridge.
I could be wrong though. Yeah. I don't know. That's all it says. It doesn't give me any more information, Dave. I don't know why. I'm
Because
sorry.
I thought maybe it was like this earlier.
I may
scene.
have failed. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Gene Roddenberry regretted the line about the Federation supposedly not allowing female captains as he felt it was sexist. Sure.
when
That's all I'm saying to that. Yeah. When? Probably on his deathbed. Anyway.
Probably when he
Sorry.
had to go to Star Trek conventions and had to answer
yeah,
for it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really where we're at. All right. Turnabout Intruder, which is the final episode of the original series, takes place in 2269, 4 years before Star Trek The Motion Picture takes place, which is in 2273, even though they were released 10 years apart. So
Right. And so what happened? So after that so this is the third year of the 5-year mission. So they had 2 more years after this, which I think are meant to be like Star Trek the animated series, like really, because that is
Oh.
canon. And
Yeah.
then he got promoted to admiral, and the Enterprise was taken away from him and given to Captain Decker. Right.
you know what, Dave? Sometimes fun facts are fun, and sometimes they're just great. Because this next one is just hilarious. The production crew nicknamed this episode, quote, Captain Kirk, Space Queen.
Space Queen.
Space Queen. Yep.
Well, he did have that sachet walk down the entire episode.
I bet you RuPaul was jealous when he watched them in the reruns. Anyway, though her voice is muffled, Dr. Lester protests to Dr. Coleman, "Go to hell." a rare case of a swear sneaking past the network censors. I didn't even notice that. That's interesting.
That's because we see it so much these days. Doesn't matter.
That's true. Yeah, there you go. This is the only time in the original series where Captain Kirk is portrayed by another actor, namely Sandra Smith.
The only time, eh? That's interesting.
One of the only times.
Like,
yeah. Sorry, I don't know what that was, but anyway. After 2 years of the series, Roger Holloway finally gets to speak dialogue. All of 2 words. His character's name, Lemel, or Lem.
You mean Lieutenant
Lemley.
Lemel, the security
Lemley,
guard
yeah.
who tried to take out Spock?
Yeah, was the same as William Shatner's license plate at the time, a mixture of his daughters Leslie, Melanie, and Elizabeth's names. So that's where they got his name from, apparently. At a 50th anniversary Star Trek convention in Las Vegas in 2016, fans voted this as the 4th worst episode. I don't know what they are on. That is ridiculous.
It's all about the female.
This
captain
episode is
line.
phenomenal. Yeah, it's probably partially to do that. All right. On this episode, it was mentioned that Starfleet doesn't allow females to be Starfleet captains commanding their own ship, but yet in Star Trek Enterprise, which is supposed to be set before the timeline of the original series, there was a female captain for a starship, Columbia, Erica Hernandez, played by Ada Maris, who contradicts that statement. So
does
yeah,
Discovery.
Discovery, same thing.
No,
yeah.
there was definitely women captains. Like it's like you can retcon this out. I think it's not.
Well,
really...
you can, but obviously both those series were made far well after the original series anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But some people might get excited about that, I guess.
Mhm.
What else we got here? Okay, this episode originally scheduled to broadcast on March 28th, 1969. Special network coverage of the death of Dwight D. Eisenhower preempted it, and it didn't air until June 3rd. There you go. So
I just found an interesting fact about this episode too.
what's that?
Pro footballer O.J. Simpson, who had just started his acting career, visited the set during the filming of this episode and was escorted around by Gene Roddenberry. Simpson witnessed the aforementioned event with Shatner on the bridge set, where he was, the jazz hands. And regarding Shatner's professional demeanor, Roddenberry told him, "You have just seen an actor at work."
That explains some things. I'm not going to get into detail, but that explains some things.
Right. So Roddenberry loved Shatner.
Yeah. Well, that's apparent for sure. Anyway, I think that's all the ones.
That's
we
all
need.
she wrote.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the rest of them are
Yeah.
just like geek details, like this is set in 2269 or whatever.
All right. Let's get into ratings. Bringing this up. Okay. So, how about we go to you first, Dad? The Turnabout Intruder.
I would give it probably a 7.8.
7.8. Okay. I'm giving this 8.5. Actually,
That's 8.2.
8.2. Adam
8.5. I like this episode.
and Jody.
The episode itself is worth 6.5, but I'm going to add 2 just for Kirk because the amount of overacting is amazing. So I'm going to do 8.5.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, there you go. So 8.3 is our collective average tonight. Pretty good, actually, especially for a season 3 episode. And this has a 6.9 on Internet Movie Database with I don't know how many voting. Doesn't matter. Okay, so and as we mentioned,
And how many of them are women?
how many?
That's the statistic I would like to know.
I don't have that stat. Sorry. So this is so an 8.3. You can see here that that's well above our average and over most of our own individual averages. So this one pretty good, guys. You know what that also could mean? Next week, even better, maybe, where we're going to be talking about the Gamesters of Triskelion.
Ooh.
Jody, would you look that up and tell us
I
the premise?
Captain Kirk, Chekhov, and Uhura are transported off the Enterprise and become gladiators who are forced to fight for the amusement of Treskelion's rulers.
So, but not the same as the Roman episode, which we
Yeah,
definitely.
it's identical. I'm just
It's the
gonna.
same
I'm gonna-
plot, it's
It's,
just-
the same plot. It's literally almost
Yeah.
the same.
Similar
I
plot,
remember this one. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. I don't think, from what I remember.
Okay, well, we only have what is it?
we
6
go.
left after
we're
this.
we're almost to the last 5, guys.
Now, Dad, you're going to be away for a bit, right?
I'm
Uh-oh.
away now on the 24th. I'm here next week.
You're here next week, but we might have to take a couple weeks off once you're away.
Well, I can go on, Dave. If I can go on my phone.
I don't know.
from
Mom
my-
was trying to negotiate you out, your agent. You better talk to your agent about it.
I'll talk to my agent.
Yeah,
Okay.
Your talent agent there overrules anything we want to do anyway. So
Yeah.
let's be
So-
safe.
But yes, we'll be covering these all. And here on Live Long and Podcast, we are always talking about Star Trek, different forms of iterations of Star Trek, not just original series, although that is the original brand, original recipe, Star Trek. We also have on Tuesday nights, we talk about Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Ashley, you'll be on that panel tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about the episode called Little Green Men, where a bunch of Ferengis.
Oh, that one's awesome. That's a great episode.
Little Green Men. We're going to be watching that tomorrow night. That's where the Ferengis, they go back to 1947, and they're the cause of the Roswell UFO.
Oh, okay.
Awesome episode. So
Yeah.
much fun, that episode.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's an interesting episode. Really fun. You would probably even like it, even not knowing anything about those characters or that
Yeah,
show.
you don't need to know much to watch that one.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
kind of stands on its own. So looking forward to talking about that. As we've been talking about every episode of Deep Space Nine for at least a year or more now, as long as we've been doing this original series one. Also, we are going to be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 6, I think, this Thursday at 7 p.m., along with Davin Skellhorn from Locutors of Trek, another Star Trek podcast. Davin being a second cousin to me, based out of Nova Scotia. So check that out. And then we also have done lots of Star Trek radio theater, and we have a back catalog of those shows. But just trying to keep up with all the new Star Trek, as Star Trek Day was last week, and we know that after Lower Decks ends, we're going to be doing Star Trek Prodigy. So I'll try and get my panel together with that. I think Jessica.
I
Chan-
forgot to ask. Anybody see the trailer for Picard season 2?
Yes,
Not yet. Not,
it is awesome.
it is okay.
I'm so giddy.
Yeah,
Did it come out? I haven't watched it. No. So
You gotta watch it. You know what? I originally was like, Picard's gonna suck. It's just gonna suck. It's gonna be so bad.
Jody,
And
I
then-
wanted to go back and watch the first season after watching that trailer again.
Well, Jody, I think you need to be on the Star Trek Picard panel once we get to January.
I'm telling you, Dave, it's making me happy.
Yeah. So, hey, that's great. Enthusiasm, great. So we're going to be talking about Star Trek Picard's not till January or February, I believe. But so in between now and then, we're going to be talking about Star Trek Prodigy, also Star Trek Discovery season 4, and then
The
into
last
Star
season.
Trek Picard. So that it's going to be busy around here, for the next while. So check out all of those things, and then our other channel, including Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, where we talk about Big Brother 3 times a week, season 23. Jameel, Jeff, and I on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, as well as our other. We've done Marvel Cinematic Universe podcasts, including Shang-Chi and different things. We'll be doing the What If, and then also Trivial Debates, our monthly show where we argue movies, TV, sports, and more. I think that's all the plugs. I think those are all the shows. I think we'll call it a night and close the book on the Turnabout Intruder. So, any final thoughts, guys? No.
Just jazz hands, I guess.
Jazz hands, and let's we'll leave you with some wisdom from Spock. Thank you, Dad. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Jody. We'll
Thank
be
you.
back in a week to talk about the Gamesters of Triskelion. Until then.
No, sir. I shall not withdraw a single charge that I have made, and I shall do everything in my power against you.